Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is Wednesday, April 15th. I'm Miles here with Joey and Ben. Guys, we just had the first night of the play-in tournament, and my goodness, it was unbelievable. How are you guys feeling?
Dude, what a couple of games we just watched. Like, I know I just said it in our pre-pod live. Like, we only had two play-in games between four teams that barely made it, and we got two fantastic games from start to finish. I I hope this is just the start of postseason in basketball. It's going to be a great year.
No question about it, Ben. This was an amazing way to begin the postseason.
Yeah, this was great. It was great just having other friends stay up with me to watch the games too. Shout out to them. It was just crazy, and we had crazy reactions, all the crazy moments going on. It's so fun. I just need this to continue throughout the postseason. Could be maybe the best one yet.
For sure. Well, let's get into it. Let's dive right on into this. But I guess before we do, if you're watching, you can always, just like every other recap that we do on here, you can check the description down below. If you want to skip ahead to listen to your favorite team, then you can go ahead and do so and click to where we talk about them. But I don't know why you wouldn't want to hear us talk about either of these games because these were two masterpieces. So let's get into it. Starting off with the first game that we had today, the 9-10 game in the Eastern Conference between the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets hosting their first postseason game in 10 years. And my goodness, Spectrum Center, Buzz City, the Hive was lit, as Charles Lee said, before the game. And it lived up to the hype in that arena. A lot more competitive than I think any of us expected it to be, coming down to overtime in a wild roller coaster of a game. The Hornets win 127-126 to advance to the next game on Friday and end the Heat's season in this game. This was absolutely unbelievable, Ben. There's a whole lot to talk about with this game, but the first thing that unfortunately we do have to talk about here was that the captain for the Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo, their leader, went down early in the second quarter with a lower back injury, saving the ball inbounds after getting pulled down, it looks like, by LaMelo Ball of the Hornets, Ben. Just an unfortunate play for the Heat in that situation. But what did you see from that play that caused Adebayo to go down with the injury?
Yeah, to me, at first it looked dirty. It's like, how is this happening? Like, man, didn't seem totally cool by LaMelo at first, but then looking more into it, it's like, well, I don't think LaMelo did it on purpose. It was sort of on accident, and it just led to that unfortunate event. And I do think LaMelo still should have picked up a flagrant one for that. I was surprised he didn't pick up a flagrant still from that. But that was a crazy event. And LaMelo, he hopes Bam gets better. He, apologized on his post game press conference, I noticed, but crazy moment there to start the game.
Yeah, Joey. I mean, that's one of those situations that's a little tricky for officials because since there was no stoppage of play and there was a fast breakdown at the other end, it's not like the officials could just stop action, go to review to check the play. So, we may see a situation where they go to the replay center in Secaucus and retroactively give LaMelo a flagrant foul. Do you think that could be possible, Joey, after what we saw here on Tuesday?
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, but I'm with Ben. I don't think it was completely on purpose, especially because I think it was more reactionary on how LaMelo, because we were talking in the pre-pod lobby about how he got hit in the head and then he was just kind of pissed about it. So it was reactionary, but that was completely reckless. You pulled out his leg from under him when all of his weight was on that leg, so he fell right onto his butt. That obviously didn't feel good. I don't know. I probably would have. I'm with Ben. I probably would have given him a flagrant one. But I don't know how much the retroactively is going to do, but I guess you can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know entirely how it works with the plane, because the plane is just so weird, because I feel like technically none of the stats like really count towards, obviously the playoffs or regular season, they're kind of just there as its own thing. So how would it work for flagrants and technicals? Like, do those get added to a playoff, accumulation? I'm not sure exactly, but either way, Ben, even without Bam Adebayo there for the Heat, gotta give a ton of credit to that team, who has really struggled over the last month on the defensive end to get any sort of consistency. Their guys came to play in this game against a red-hot Charlotte Hornets team, and they got incredible performance from across the board that led to it being an incredible back-and-forth finish. Ben, what did you see from the Heat in this game?
I saw Khalil Ware actually do an impressive job to me in stepping up for Bam. He had 5 blocks in this game. His shot blocking was impressive. You see on the box score, he had 19 rebounds in this game. I was impressed with the way he stepped up. You got to give props to that with holding things down okay in the front court. And then we talked about Andrew Wiggins potentially being an X factor, the last pod episode previewing the game, and he had a good game, 27 points he scored. He seemed like he had one of his best games in a little while, and got a good Davion Mitchell game, 28 points. Is it playoff? I mean, not playoff, playing Davion Mitchell. See who he is.
Yeah, it's career high in the playing game, Davion Mitchell.
Yeah, I know. And then Hero and Norman Powell had some good minutes. But what I noticed was it seemed like Eric Spoelstra wasn't trying to play them at the same time, because they just don't seem to think that works. And I agree with them on that. And I'm curious to see how they go about those guys in the off season.
Yeah, definitely a great point there. That's something to definitely watch for in the offseason. And Joey, again, all those Heat guys played incredibly well. The way that Davion Mitchell played on both ends of the floor, scoring at the basket, making threes, and then defensively pretty much stopping Con Knipple in this game for the Hornets, and making LaMelo Ball shoot a horrible shooting percentage, in this game as well. Like, his activity was fantastic, but the Hornets, they just found a way to just stay in the game. Like, even when it felt like the Heat had control in the game in the first half, it never got out of control where it was past like a 2 to 3 possession game.
100%. As great as Miami played, and they just couldn't do it in the end. Charlotte just hung around there until it came down to the clutch moments, and that's when they excelled. And like you said, right when you started it off, that arena, the Spectrum Center, was absolutely off the chain. Like, they've been waiting a decade for a playoff atmosphere, and they got it, and the team delivered. But like, the fans keep you in it sometimes, and they definitely had an impact on this game. But when it came down to the clutch moments, a man named Kobe White, who has had so many great moments down in North Carolina in his college career, finally gets traded to Charlotte, and this is his play-in moment to help them continue their season. Cinematic, beautiful, like incredible, ice in his veins. Like we were talking, LaMelo and Con couldn't hit the broadside of a barn today. LaMelo Ball shot 2 for 16, 12.5% from 3-point line. He still had 30 points, so like he was still getting it done. But man, at least like Bridges and Miller were hitting it. Like I said, Kobe White, like the guys that you wanted to step up, stepped up. But imagine this team if they get Con Knipple going too. It's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of this game for the Hornets, I think you could tell a lot of the nerves that were there for those young guys there, with it being a new environment. Like, it's crazy, Ben. It felt like a completely different sport, which we know it really is. How the playoffs and the postseason is different than the regular season, but it's just such a big contrast to just like 2 days ago, the end of the regular season, where we mentioned at the end of the last podcast where there are so many teams tanking and resting players and in these meaningless games here. And now we see what happens when these two teams are just battling out, win or go home, and these guys are, playing great. But for the Hornets, the young guys struggled. It was their experienced guys that kept them in it in the first half. LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges were great in the first half. And then in that third quarter, Kobe White went nuclear, in the third quarter, and then, of course, made the incredible three at the end of regulation to tie the game and force overtime.
Yeah, Kobe White, just ice in his veins, like the energy that guy brought in the second half, end of the third quarter, then in the fourth quarter was just phenomenal. I loved it. It was so fun to watch. And that's just got to feel good for that guy coming back to North Carolina and doing that. So he's got to be feeling really good tonight. And, yeah, just props to other guys, stepping up, finding ways to hit some 3-point shots. Like we said, Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges shot it good from there and kept the minute okay with that, even with LaMelo and Khan struggling. And I noticed from 3-point range, the Hornets, they took a ton of threes in this game. They took 56 threes. It's like they were really relying on it tonight, which was an interesting strategy, but it seemed to work okay. They won at least.
To be fair, LaMelo shot 16 when he probably should have realized once he was 2 for 10, he probably should stop chucking them up. But I don't know about you. Like, I know he finished with the good stat line and everything, but he almost sold that game. He fouled on the 3-point line to give him that shot, and then continually at the end of the game trying to chuck up threes. Sir, you can't make them today. It's okay. Give it to somebody else.
Well, all right, let's get into that as well, because that was part of the crazy roller coaster. So Kobe White makes the three after it looks like the Heat have this game won, because the Hornets, again, they kept firing away from three, and they go something like, let me find the number exactly so I don't screw it up, 4 for 17 from three in the fourth quarter. And what happened was the Heat went to that zone defense that we've seen that program play for so many years, and Charlotte just could not make a three. They missed their first 10 threes of the fourth quarter, and Miami was getting on a nice run led by Davion Mitchell and Andrew Wiggins, who seemed like they could not be stopped in this game. But the Hornets found a way to start to make the threes down the stretch when it mattered. Brandon Miller, I give him a ton of credit for putting together a good stat line game and knocking down 5 big threes after he had some foul trouble. And you could tell in the first half it kind of slowed down his rhythm a little bit. But he was able to make big plays in overtime and give his team what they needed. Moussa Diabate, 8 offensive rebounds. His offensive rebounds kept the Hornets in it as well in the first half, and that's what he's been doing all season long.
That's what I said my X factor was in the last pod episode when we previewed this. I'm like, they're going to chuck up a lot of threes. Diabate, he's not the biggest dude out there. Like Ben said, Khalil Ware had a fantastic rebounding game, but Diabate could just find his way to get the boards, and then he kicks it out, and then they chuck up more threes. It's a game plan that has worked the entire new year ever since it turned over to 2026.
Yeah, but then in overtime, Miami is able to get it going. It seems like they're forcing, Charlotte's the team that's able to get it going. I mean, it just kept flipping around. I was just thinking of the play in the fourth quarter where the Hornets are down by 3, and they kept moving the ball around, but it seemed like no one wanted to shoot the shot, so it ended up in Grant Williams in the corner, and I did not like the way he played today. I thought he had a horrible game, but They were able to make up for it in overtime. LaMelo had a nice finish, near the basket, following some technical difficulties by the Prime Video, which is still unbelievable. But anyways, Hornets are up 5 with like 25 seconds to go. Tyler Hero makes a crazy shot, basically the same shot Kobe White made, but from the opposite corner on the other side of the court. Then they trap LaMelo in the backcourt, and he turns it over. Tyler Hero steps back. He's fouled on the 3, like you said, Joy, by LaMelo, makes the 3 free throws. So now the Hornets are down 1, and it looks like they just blew a 5-point lead in like 20 seconds when they had this golden opportunity. So LaMelo comes up, and makes up for it, gets right to the basket, lays it in to give the Hornets the lead. The Heat have one more chance, come down the court. Davion Mitchell has been getting down the lane the whole game, gets to the basket, and both Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller come back to pin the ball on the backboard to clinch the win. That was an incredible finish.
Incredible defense at the end. That was a highlight moment. It was perfectly encapsulated that entire game. Right at the end.
Yeah, no question about it. But Ben, it was just unbelievable. LaMelo Ball, making up for, some of the mistakes that he made, throughout the game. Finishes with 30 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds, but again, 12 for 31 from the field, 2 for 16 from 3. How do you grade, but how do you gauge that performance from LaMelo Ball as the leader of this Hornets team in this situation?
Yeah, it's quite the eventful game for Mr. LaMelo Ball tonight. It was entertaining, though. He made some good entertainment tonight with, he had, some rough plays. He had some lows a few times, a tough foul. That was a mistake on Tyler Hero and an accidental, hard tripping on Bam. But overall, if I graded his performance, it'd be like, I would say an A- still. I mean, he took a lot of shots. He took a few bad shots, but he still got 30 points somehow off of, just finding ways to get to the basket, to get closer shots, to get those to fall in at least. And then he was able to do a good job helping his teammates find ways to get open and step up. So he still looked like a star up there, but a dramatic game from him.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. I feel like, and this is just how I feel, when you're a star player, if you're going to be inefficient from the field, you need to take 30, 35 shots in a game because you're still going to put up your points. You're still going to put the onus on the defense. It was the same thing for guys like Kobe. If he was inefficient, just shoot a bunch of shots because you're going to provide that gravity, and eventually you're going to make the plays that you need to win them the game. And LaMelo did that, and this is a huge win for the Hornets. I mean, this was a game that a lot of us coming in, Joe, I mean, we even said it, like we felt like the Hornets were going to kind of roll over the Heat in this game, and the Heat weren't going to give much resistance, but the Heat brought that resistance. And there was a while, like in the fourth quarter there, and after they had blown that lead, where it's like, my goodness, the Hornets had been playing so well this second half of the season. The second best net rating in the entire NBA since the calendar flipped. If it all ended just like that, oh my goodness, what a disappointment that would be. But they were able to pull it out here in this game, in this situation, and LaMelo was able to come through for him.
Yeah, that's what good teams do, regardless of how we think. We're fans of the game, but we're not experts. We don't know everything. Even even Miles predicted the Bucks to finish 12th. They finished 11th. He was wrong. He didn't get it. But that's what good teams do. And Hornets, they showed that they're a good team. We don't give Miami nearly enough credit. They've had a lot of struggles this year. Like we talked about the Terry Rozier
yeah,
cloud hanging over their head. Like they've had a rough season, but this is an Eric Spoelstra playoff team. They played like an Eric Spoelstra team where some of the guys that you don't really think of, like kind of like an Andrew Wiggins and a Davion Mitchell, are going to be their two leading scorers. I wouldn't have predicted that. I would have predicted Bam and Harrow or Norman Powell and Harrow or something like that. I wouldn't have picked those two, but that's what happens. They play hard-nosed defense and they get production. And that's a good win. That's a good win, however you look at it. That's postseason basketball right there.
Yeah, an experienced Heat team. A great win for the Hornets. Their biggest win, probably in the 10 years since they've been in this, postseason drought. And they get another chance here to try to make the playoffs as the 8th seed. But talking about the Heat a little bit, their season comes to a heartbreaking end in this situation. I'm sure Heat fans, I know Heat fans coming into the game, most of them were expecting to get drilled by the Hornets in this game, and they were, I'm sure the Heat fans are already expecting, they're already kind of feeling like, all right, we lost, it is what it is. The Hornets have been playing great. But when you give yourself the position to win like that multiple times and then lose, the heartbreaking feeling is not gonna, it's not gonna feel any better by expecting the feeling of trying to be prepared. So this obviously a heartbreaking way for their season to end. 43-39, the 10th seed, and this is going to be the first year that they do not make the playoffs since 2019, Dwayne Wade's final season in Miami. And of course, we've mentioned all the ups and downs that they've had this season. So Ben, you talked about, maybe something to watch for in the offseason is what they end up doing with that backcourt of Tyler Hero and Norman Powell, the Heat's all-stars from each of the last two seasons. But like you said, in this important game, win or go home, their coaching staff did not trust those two guys to be on the floor together. So what are they going to do with those two players?
Well, it's going to be interesting to find out, but I would have to guess they're going to take a serious look at it based on what we saw this year when it went rough with the two of them on the court and not trusting to put them out there at the same time in this Hornets winner go home game. I think they're to think about having to possibly move on from one of them. But still, the tricky part with that this year was Tyler Hero, trying to recover from his injury thing and coming back in the middle of the year more so. They didn't get like a training camp together or anything like that. And they would have now had Tyler Hero healthy to start the year. I think they could have been in a better spot with those two, possibly. So, I would say that was a tough part, and maybe the Heat will, keep the two believing that, hey, we got an off season together, been a training camp. These guys could possibly figure it out, but the Heat maybe will go after a start off season. Who knows? They've been rumored about that for a long time. They may not get one, but they'll be an interesting team this off season.
Yeah, Joey, how do you think the Heat should navigate this situation where you have these two players in the backcourt, Hero and Powell, that are really great scorers, all-star caliber scorers, but again, they weren't trusted to be on the floor together, but they both have their own weaknesses, right? Like Tyler Hero, he's the younger player. You probably argue he's the better player as far as, getting his teammates involved, but he isn't as available. Meanwhile, Norman Powell is 6 years older, and he's on, he's going to be a free agent this summer, one of the best available here, expiring this offseason. So how do you think the Heat are going to manage this summer?
If Norman Powell's on an expiring contract, he's probably gone. Let's be real. Tyler Hero is the younger guy. He's the better player. And it's just they've invested, I feel like, too much into Hero and Bam that they just probably should keep going because that's a really good duo. They just need to retool, get some other better. But it gave me a lot of hope seeing how they performed in this game. It really did, because like this is a solid team. They just haven't been playing, and there hasn't been consistency enough with this team where they could come up clutch and come and find out how to win. Like they just haven't been there, like at least consistently all year. But I would probably, it might be time to move on from Norman Powell. He was your all-star this year, but if you can't have your two best players or two of your better players on the court and in the clutch time when you really need them, and it's too much of a liability, you really have to analyze and realize that it might not. It's just not going to work, because that's
yeah. I mean, how many times do you see an all-star have to, in the biggest game of the season, when and he's healthy, come off the bench and only play 19 minutes? Like, and it would not foul trouble. That was the coaching decision to just play him that many minutes.
In a win or go home situation too. It's just, I think they know their decision.
Yeah, no, I think that what it might come down to is if they are in the market to get a star, like you said, Ben. Now, Miami, if they're always in the talks to get a star, exactly like you said, Ben, every single season feels like there are always 2 to 3 names that could be in the market to go to Miami. But this summer does feel like there could be a change in that, with Giannis Antetokounmpo most likely being available with Milwaukee. Who knows what the Clippers are thinking next with Kawhi Leonard? Like, there are different names that could be on the move here. And if that's the case, and Hero is a younger player that is an all-star that could be more valuable in a trade to bring in one of those guys, then maybe he's the guy you move on and you re-sign Norman Powell. Andrew Wiggins is someone that could be moved on to. I think he had a very good underrated season. He was top 10 in the league in three-point shooting this year. So a very good year for Wiggins in his first full year with Miami. Davion Mitchell, good defender as the full-time starting point guard. Jaime Jaquez, 6th Man of the Year candidate, and Kel'el Ware had his ups and downs, but you see him this game, the impact he can have on both ends of the floor as a guy that can rebound, block shots, and hit threes. Certainly a valuable player. And, of course, we know what Bam can do. He had a bit of I'd say a down year besides the 83-point game. Like, his numbers are very skewed because of the one game, but overall they still have a decent foundation. It's just going to be about where the Heat feel like they're at in an Eastern Conference that could have some of those like lottery teams. Like, we'll see what Washington has in them next year with Trae Young and Anthony Davis back. Indiana, of course, with their players back healthy. Like, we'll see where the Heat think they fit in the overall landscape of the NBA.
It's going to be very interesting, but I expect them to be back and competing for a playoff and a play-in spot, especially if they're going to run it back with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, which Heat fans may not be happy about, because I know they're tired of this being the 4th straight year they're in the play-in, and this is the first time that they lose. So it's kind of been the same thing over and over again. It gets masked. That stat kind of gets masked a little bit because they made the finals in 2023 as a play-in team, but they've been in this same situation the last several years. So we'll see if they do make any other changes. But congratulations to the Charlotte Hornets for moving on to Friday. And Miami, you're the first team officially that's off to Cancun. You don't have to go too far to the beaches down there, though, in South Florida. So enjoy the vacation.
Oh, yes. Gone fishing.
Yeah, gone fishing as a shot inside the NBA for that one. But now let's get into the Western Conference 7-8 game between the Portland Trailblazers and the Phoenix Suns. And this is another game that was back and forth right down to the wire. Now, this was one that we did expect to be a bit more competitive, but across the board, a lot of people overwhelmingly were thinking that the Phoenix Suns were going to win this game. But the Portland Trailblazers were able to use some defense and an incredible 40-plus point game from Deni Avdija to get a comeback win in Phoenix against the Suns. The Blazers win 114-110 to advance to the playoffs as the 7th seed to get a date with Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs in round 1 of the playoffs. My goodness, guys, this was crazy. This was another crazy finish. Another one that kept going back and forth. It seemed like both teams were flipping around double-digit leads throughout this game. But, Ben, Deni Avdija, what a game for Deni Avdija. His first postseason game as a number one option. And if, fans haven't been watching him and the Portland Trailblazers all season, this is what he's been doing all season long, and he just took it to a whole nother level in this game.
Yeah, he did take it to another level. He was fantastic, and he did a great job at getting to the free throw line. Took 13 attempts at the free throw line. He needed those. So, solid at the free throw line, and overall, he had a great tech mindset. He was confident he could be the guy to hopefully lead the Blazers to victory in the game, and he played tough, and he sure did that. So I was impressed with Deni, and this game just goes to show you how much he's improved over a year.
Yeah, Joey, just an incredible performance by Deni Avdija. But just overall, the defense that Portland played on the Suns throughout this game was very impressive. Now, there were some moments where some of those guys on the Suns were making the tough shots, like Jalen Green having 35 points, Dylan Brooks with 20, getting it going in the third quarter, and Devin Booker doing his normal things. But overall, Portland, I think, did overall a good job of staying poised throughout this game, especially for a young team in their first postseason game together as a group and getting the job done on the defensive end.
They played fantastic on the defensive end. Donovan Clingan was a really good interior defender. Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, all three of those guys were playing really clutch defensively today. And that's what they needed. They were stifling. They were putting all sorts of pressure on them. Your guy that you talked in the last pod episode, Drew Holiday, played fantastic and was the huge defensive leader on this team, pressuring him, doing a full court press every time he was on the court, especially down at the end of the game. Even though the trio of the Suns guys went a little played really well, and I expect them to. None of those other guys could get going though. They were Goodwin had a couple clutch shots. Royce O'Neal was making a couple threes. Gillespie made a couple threes, but not enough to get them going. It was only sporadically, and that's the scary thing with Phoenix is if all three of those guys are going, but if that one other guy gets going, that can just be unconscious, it's a very scary team, and they just couldn't do it. But like you said, Deni Avdija, what else do you say about him? He was fantastic. It looked so easy to him. The game plan at the end of the game was clear out, let me go, because there was small ball, and there is nobody in the paint to stop him. It was just way too easy.
Yeah, you mentioned the small ball, Joey. Joey and I were watching the fourth quarter of this game here together in the pre-pod lobby, and what we noticed coming down the stretch was that neither team was playing a big. It was small ball across the board, and Ben, with the Suns not playing, Mark Williams, or for some stretches they didn't have Oso Ighodaro on the floor, it just felt like a layup line for Deni Avdija down the stretch there. If the whole fourth quarter, he was able to just get to the rim, finish at the basket, draw fouls, get to the free throw line, or spray it out to his shooters like Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant, who had a big impact in the fourth quarter of this game. Do you think that the Suns made a mistake, Ben, in going to a smaller lineup with no bigs and not having the rim protection there to stop the Blazers' star?
Yeah, I think it was a mistake because Deni Avdija, come on, should be the main guy. Your scouting report that you're trying to slow down. He's still, big guy for a forward, and he jumps up there, he can get layups the ball in, not too hard at times, and it was a struggle for Phoenix of trying to stop him with how big he was down there. They're smaller players, and they would have had Mark Williams, and they possibly could have gotten some more stops and could have had a better chance to win. Would have at least had some rim protection there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely something that the Suns will maybe look at going into, their next play-in game and just the results from this one. But I think that's something that was key in this game, aside from Deni Avdija just having an incredible performance, 41, 7, and 12. Something that we talked about going into this game was the three-point disparity and how that would look in this game, because these two teams were both top 5 in the league in three-point attempts, but statistically, the Suns would make a whole lot more than the Portland Trailblazers. And what we saw in this game was Portland took 22 more threes than Phoenix and ended up making 17 of the 47 threes they took, while the Suns were 9 for 25. And Joey, I think what the numbers tell you and what you see watching is that Portland turned a lot of the Suns' shots from what are normally threes into those pull-up mid-rangers. And even if they were going in from Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks and Devin Booker, 3 is more than 2. So Portland making their threes overall outweighs the Suns making those mid-rangers.
Yeah, both, that's exactly it. When we talked about it on the last pod episode, when previewing this game, we were saying if Portland gets that three-point shot going, they're an incredibly scary team. And here they were. Phoenix, all year long, a better three-point shooting team than Portland in all measures. But both teams shoot 36% from the three-point line, and Portland makes more. Jalen Green was looking for his mid-range shot all game. Portland was fine with that. He was making most of them. He was playing really well. If I'm Phoenix, I'm happy about that, but you got – the bread and butter is the three-point, and I was really if Phoenix really, really wanted to get their three-point going a lot more, they really needed him. And I know he was in foul trouble for a good amount of the game, but Connor Gillespie needed to get more shots up. They talked about on the broadcast how he was the leader in three-point percentage, shooting 45% from 3 on catch and shoot. And he had a catch and shoot. He only had 1 in that fourth quarter. And he made it. You got to get him more attempts. You got to run plays for him, especially since they didn't have Grayson Allen. And he's another guy who is really great at that catch and shoot. If you don't have those going, that's going to really struggle, because the other guys are getting it going. Your star players are getting it going from the mid-range, but they still need 3 points. They still need those threes.
Yeah, and I think, overall, you just got to give credit to the Portland defense for forcing those Suns players into the mid-range, that was just a terrific game playing there from Tiago Splitter, the interim head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, and it gets them to the 7th seed where they'll play the Spurs in the first round now. And in the next full podcast episode on Friday, we'll get into all the first-round series predictions. But it's just super impressive and a big-time accomplishment for the Trailblazers to get in as the 7th seed in the Western Conference in a loaded West this year. No Damian Lillard this season with the Achilles injury from last year in Milwaukee. To get the 7th seed in this Western Conference and prove that they can win in a hostile environment in Phoenix, like in this game, I think is just a huge confidence booster for them going forward for that team.
How excited do you think Dame is to return to play basketball with this team next year? He's seeing Deni score. He's seeing all these guys just thrive. Tamani Kamaro's a 40% three-point shooter. Dame could turn into just a catch and shoot guy at this point come next year. Deni Avdija is just going to take over again.
Yeah, so big impressive victory for the Portland Trailblazers, again defeating the Suns 114-110. And man, those were 2 incredible games last night. I know we'll keep saying it, but both going down to the final possession. I mean, the Suns had a chance to win this game. Jalen Green missed the 3 with a few seconds to go, but the Blazers played solid defense. Green just missed the 3. He was so used to taking mid-rangers that the three-point shot on that one just a little out of his range, and the Blazers were able to basically play keep away after, getting the ball back.
Well, that was the thing. They had who was it? was it Royce O'Neal that got the offensive rebound off that Jalen
Him or
Grant?
Goodwin, one of them.
Goodwin, and then Jeremy Grant, clutch defensive spot, stripped the ball out, and then they just dribbled the ball out. And then Jeremy Grant dunked it at the end.
Yeah, so impressive victory for the Trailblazers to wrap up night one of postseason action. Well, Ben, we've got the two games here tonight with the Magic and the 76ers, the 7-8 game in the East, 7:30 on Prime Video, and the Warriors and the Clippers, 10 p.m. on Prime, the 9-10 game in the Western Conference. I know we previewed these games yesterday on the full podcast. Of course, we already mentioned our X factors and our predictions for those games, specifically Warriors Clippers, but the Magic Sixers game, I'm now very intrigued with because of what we saw with the Heat, because we were kind of saying the similar things about the Heat and the Magic, with those games. Do you guys think that the Magic can come out with a lot more of the energy that we saw from the Heat, in this game against Charlotte?
Well, I think they possibly could, just because of knowing that they're under the pressure that they gotta get something done this year, get some big wins hopefully happening in the playoffs. And I'm sure Jamal Mosley is well aware of that, and I'm thinking he's gonna get his guys fired up and that they can come out and bring some good energy. Now, how good will that translate the play? We'll have to see. I still have questions on if the Magic can be consistent enough to win, because they've shown inconsistency then the regular season. But like you said on the full pod, it's got to be a full consistent game if they want to win that one.
Yeah, Joey, something I'm curious to watch for in this game that I didn't think about when recording the last podcast was just the uniqueness of the Eastern Conference overall. Because if, the winner of this game between the Magic and the Sixers gets the 7th seed, and they would have to play Boston in the first round as the number 2 seed. And of course, if they lose, they have another chance to get in as the 8th seed, where they would play Detroit, the number 1 seed. And we've been saying and hearing all season long how, of course, Boston, because of their championship pedigree, is the favorite, the team to beat, and Detroit doesn't have the experience yet to really get it done. Is there any world where we see one of these teams not punt the game, but be like, it's okay, we'd rather be the 8th seed and play Detroit than be the 7th seed and play Boston?
Oh, God, that would be stupid, wouldn't it? That would be really stupid. I'm sorry. Like, it's one thing to, predict seeds, but, you really want to risk going against the Charlotte team that has been the second best team since it's turned into 2026? You're thinking, oh, well, yeah, if you're thinking that you could just go play Detroit right away, you got another thing coming. This Charlotte team is playing with the utmost confidence, going against a Heat team that, like we said, no consistency, but they played a very consistent and hard-nosed game. I would not want to play Charlotte right now. Even if I'm Detroit, looking at that, I would be excited if I was Detroit, because that would be a really good matchup for them. But at one point or another, I would also be like, man, this team is hot at the right time. I kind of don't want to play them either. But that would be stupid by Philly or Orlando, because to be honest, I think both these teams could give Boston a series. They both have the guys that can match them a little bit. Orlando, if they bring it and they play this game and they play really well and show that they can go back to that hard-nosed defense and win by physicality, and they win this game against Philly, if they have that confidence and going in with that momentum, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner versus Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, that's a really good matchup as well. That's going to be a tough series for Boston, I would think. Same thing with Philly if they got it going. If Paul George is back, that's a tough matchup right there for one of those guys. Not to mention you have to try to go against those. Have your guards go against VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey, who have been balling out this year. Like, and Boston doesn't have a notoriously great backcourt this year. Like, it would. Neither of these are great matchups, I think, for Boston. So, if I'm either Philly or Orlando, I want to win this game. I want to play Boston.
Interesting take there. Ben, you have any thoughts on this?
I definitely don't think you should lose a playing game. Come on, now, Joey's right about that. And, yeah, I mean, Boston's look super good. Their experience, like, I think whoever has to play Boston could have a bit tougher of a time than whoever has to play with Detroit, but both would be tough. Like, just win and get in at least, especially for the Magic. Like, after that loss against the Celtics, that was embarrassing, losing to the third stringers. Come on, you got to want to move on for that quickly and win this game against the 76ers to give yourself some confidence.
Yeah, wouldn't you want to get back? Wouldn't you want to play Boston and be like, man, we got embarrassed. We don't want to do that again. We want to show what we get.
That's another point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's going to be tough for these games. I mean, this game's going to be tough, and like you said, whoever loses this game and has to run into the Buzz City Killers it's not gonna be an easy cakewalk as well. So these teams are gonna have to earn their way into these final two playoff spots in the East, and that's what makes it so much fun. But that is it for the recap here today. We can only hope for more theater like we had here in night one, and I just cannot wait. Again, the games we have tonight: Magic Sixers at 7:30 and Warriors Clippers at 10 o'clock. Both games on Prime. Yay! You guys have anything else before we get out of here?
Let's just hope there's no technical difficulties this time with 45 seconds left in the game. That is just not ideal.
Yeah, that would be excellent if there were not technical difficulties. But that is it for us here on the recap. We'll be back tomorrow night to talk about all the games that happen here tonight. So make sure to stay tuned. But that's it for us here. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.